please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you, all of you, for your service to our country. I'd like to begin Dr. Schmidt, what do you think the biggest challenges are that we face with regard to the ability to test and to analyze just exactly where our systems are at today? What's the shortcomings that we have to address?
Senator, some of the key challenges, as I'm sure you're aware, are in cybersecurity. Our adversaries have very sophisticated capabilities offensively. Our systems are getting more complicated, and they're only as strong as the weakest link. So making sure that we have the appropriate capabilities and workforce and tools to conduct advanced red team assessments is crucially important. There's also a big challenge in terms of these new generation ConOps, concept of operations, such as kill webs and JADC2, which involve coordination between many different sensors and shooters, where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Very important we have that capability. As you can imagine, very difficult to test. So we have to make sure, once again, we have the right people with the right skills and the right test equipment in order to be able to ensure those systems work as designed.
We're not there right now, are we?
It's a continual process, and if confirmed, I commit to working very hard to making sure we get the right assets to address those challenging issues.
An ongoing process.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Dr. Erickson, right now there is sometimes they would suggest a valley of death with regard to the ability of small firms to be able to step up into the high technology areas and get past those first couple of months to years before their products are actually coming to market or being made available. Can you talk a little bit about our needs here with regard to those startup companies and what we could perhaps do to allow more of them to be successful in bringing their products to market?
Senator Rounds, thank you for allowing me to talk about something that I've been working on at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center for some years and across the agency as well. There are really three components to the Valley of Death that I want to expand upon. There are more than one. There's partnerships and opportunities to work strategically to support our partners. And then we must have patience. Technology does take a while to develop. When I mentioned there were more than one, there are the early phases. If we don't identify those requirements early and bring in the potential long-term partners, we end up struggling to make sure that we get what we want when we enter those later phases in our development, or what we call technology readiness levels. There is also this aspect of test as we fly, as we say, and here we say test as we fight. Because you really do want to test this new innovative technology in the environment that you envision for it later. So not kind of having those oh, wait a minute, we didn't do this exactly right, and then having to take some steps back. That, of course, needs resources and money. And then there's this step when you're potentially commercializing or mass producing. Often small businesses don't have that capability, and we ultimately need to get thousands of them to our troops. So it's really going to be important to help to educate and to counsel small businesses along the way. I think that's one of the most important aspects. And then on our side of the business, where we really look at the cycles of funding, sometimes small businesses get to that milestone, and then the funding is not there because of either our phasing in our congressional awards or other things that kind of hold us back. So if we are able to look at some of those things, we'll be able to help them to ultimately deliver what we need for our...
We look forward to working with you to get that done. Secretary Dalton, your nomination to be the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Homeland Defense passed the Senate Armed Services Committee by a voice vote. You were not controversial. Since that time, two items have happened that now call into question that confidence. The ranking member has identified very clearly the concerns with regard to the way that you responded to the issue of material at the southern border, how it was handled, the assurances that were made that this was going to be handled in accordance to law, and yet it had already been completed. It was not forthright to the committee. It really challenged the confidence that many of us had expressed in supporting your nomination to begin with. You have some work to do to regain that confidence. Let me ask about another item, and that is with regard to the Chinese spy balloon, which entered our airspace through Alaska, coming across Canada, back into the United States again. This was under your watch. Were you in the line of, or were you in the direct chain of command with regard to the decisions that were made not to shoot the balloon down until after it had left American airspace?
Senator, I was one of the officials advising Secretary Austin. The best military advice to not shoot down the balloon over U.S. territory came from our U.S. Senior military officials.
Okay, look, this is an area which you will be challenged on this particular one because it's a question of judgment and recommendations being made. I think between now and the time that a vote is held on your nomination, I think you've got some work to do to regain the confidence of a lot of the members on this committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rounds. Senator Blumenthal.